Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another dose of positivity. So nice to see you, those of you here who showed up for the live broadcast today. For those of you streaming in on Facebook and LinkedIn, welcome, welcome. Please put your comments or your questions in the chat. Tell's on with us today, and she will be managing all your questions. Don't be shy. If you hear all of you who are here today on the live, raise your hand if you'd like to come on the stage and have a time to speak directly with our special guest, Dr. Mariza Snyder, who I'm thrilled to have, who's going to be talking about our hormones. No wonder there's not too many guys here on the show today, but they have hormones too. And
I
bet Alan shows up, and I'm going to want to talk to you about that. That's really great. So, but before we get started, and while we're adjusting and everybody's getting their cups of water or tea, opening up the window and feeling that sunshine come in, I want to remind everybody real quick that I am pretty much a nonprofit and do not come here to solicit anything. I just bring brilliant people forward. This is my 104th interview, and I'm just thrilled to have Dr. Mariza in the house with us. Every week, I do read from one of my books, and the way we pay and donate to the causes that we do at Soul to Soul Solutions is from the sales of our books and my nature photography. And we'll put those links in the chat and also on the recording for those of you who listen to the recording. And please check us out, and you might just find just the words or the beautiful photography that you've been needing and looking for. So without further ado, I'm going to read from one of the books, Conscious Cures, Solutions to 21st Century Pandemics. Reducing stress. Stress raises your blood pressure and your pulse, making you more receptive to illness. The American Medical Association has even noted that stress is the primary cause for over 60% of human illness and disease. If anxiety and fear are pressing down on you, get the help you deserve so you can leave the fear behind. Because we all know that the other side of fear is freedom. Incorporate exercise, mindfulness, meditation, and breath awareness into your daily rituals. There is much to do and extraordinary opportunities to embark upon when we are healthy and stress-free. And that is why we have this amazing woman in the house who's going to be talking to us about how we can detect some of these problems that are dragging and driving us in the wrong direction. So this is the moment where I get to introduce Dr. Mariza Snyder, who is a functional practitioner like so many others who have come onto this show. But this is a woman who is devoted to hormones and an expert at it, and the author of not one, not two, but 8 books. And her newest book is Essential Oil Menopause Solutions. Very exciting, which is a #1 best-selling book. And we'll put the link in there and her Dr. Mariza's bio in the chat, so don't worry about it, writing this down. For the past 15 years, she has been lecturing at wellness centers, conferences, and corporations on hormone health, metabolic health, nutrition, and my favorite topic is detoxification. She has been featured on Dr. Oz, Oprah Magazine, Fox News Health, Mind Body Green, and many publications. Dr. Mariza is also the host of the top-rated Energized podcast with over 11 million downloads designed to empower women like you to become the CEO of their health. So we'll go ahead and pop the link in there, and anybody who wants to further geek out, go for it. In the meantime, please come to the stage, Doctor, with your wisdom and your brilliance, and tell us how you got here to this point in time.
Sure, absolutely. I'm just a little bit about where I'm at right now is, I'm a mama. I am an author, but I'm also a woman in perimenopause. So I am in it. And I remember when my mom was going through perimenopause, this really profound kind of ushering into the next phase of our lives. And it just looked like a nightmare unfolding. I remember thinking to myself, like, gosh, I would not wish that on my worst enemy, what happened to my mom. And I share a lot about her story in my book and on my show. And she was having severe stress issues, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, and although when she went to her doctors, they would normalize it, there was no solutions for her per se. And it just was really heartbreaking to see. I ended up taking on my mom's care. Thank goodness I got the opportunity to do so. And she ended up having some great results because of it. But I also wondered, as I was stepping into my late 30s, into my early 40s, like, oh, what's it going to be for me? How am I going to get to navigate this? And one of the things that my mom used to tell me when I was a little girl is that she's like, the women in our family don't have progesterone. And it was just kind of a matter of fact thing she would say. When I was a little girl, I just didn't know. Like when it was, our periods were even taboo when I was growing up. And she was just like, they're just gonna be awful. It's just how it's gonna be. It's the way it is for all of us. And now that I understand a lot about how hormones work and particularly progesterone, I've learned that when we're riddled with a level of stress and a deregulation in our body, it has a profound impact on our reproductive system and as a result on our hormones. And so, in a way, my mom was right, but in a lot of ways, she didn't understand the root cause of what was going on there. And a big part of that was really a deregulated nervous system that was driving a lot of those kind of symptoms for her. And so I've been blessed not only to navigate my own journey and listen to my body, but I've worked with tens of thousands of women and helping them to navigate. And as you were reading earlier, stress is such a big player, particularly not only for our entire systemic system, but also our endocrine system and our reproductive hormones and reproductive system. And so I'm excited to talk about that. But as I get to navigate the perimenopause journey, a lot of ease and grace in the process of it all.
Mm-hmm. One thing I wanted to, I think that people would really appreciate you emphasizing a deregulated nervous system.
Mhm. Yeah, let me talk about that.
Let's define that.
Sure, absolutely. So, and it really, I mean, obviously, a traumatic event can happen at any time in our lives. But when we look at the research, a lot of it happens when we are younger, whether it's and how I love to define trauma is that at any point in time that you're in a situation where your body, your system is overwhelmed. It's beyond capacity of that moment. And I think a lot of us, we get adaptations from those moments in our lives, especially when we're young. So we learn, especially as girls, if women, we're talking about women, we learn how to people please. We learn how to be quieter. We learn how to, show up and really be the good girl. And to be productive. I remember growing up, I was taught that my worth was really predicated on how much I was doing for my family. And also another thing that I was taught very early on is that your family is everything. Like it comes first and foremost before yourself. And so there were these moments in my childhood, and I know definitely moments in my mother's childhood, and every single one of us, whether it was when we were younger or maybe even teenagers, that kind of created a system, a stress response system. So the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, where we're receiving information in through the external environment. It triggers a moment in the hypothalamus or the amygdala. And if we kind of trigger that as a survival moment or a moment where our bodies have to go into, I need to make it through this moment, then we release corticosteroids like cortisol, epinephrine, and norepinephrine through the adrenals. And so that system is always, it's being through the autonomic nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic. it's this beautiful dance, but often from whatever happened in our childhood, we've kind of learned these adaptations where, productivity is the move, always doing things is the move. And I meet a lot of women, particularly in midlife, where they are they're juggling a lot of balls, they're very productive, and yet they're starting to see some major health challenges. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that multiple times a day we move into that sympathetic nervous system mode where we are, I call it slaying dragons. We're in dragon slaying mode. And when we continue to turn that system on, we have to down regulate, so kind of turn off the digestive system, the reproductive system, things that are not of necessary use, like is not going to keep us alive in survival. And when that happens repetitively over time, because we're being vigilant about getting our kids to school, or vigilant about taking care of a parent, or managing our schedule, or doing all the things that we're doing every day, that over time, that system of survival has a profound impact on our other hormones like insulin, thyroid, progesterone, estrogen, and alike.
Yeah, the fear and flight thing, where you're just being run down by a lion all day long and burns you out. And I know
Yes.
that happened to me hugely. And actually, one of my books, Living Like the Future Matters, I wish I had known you back then when I went through that whole burnout, running national company, restaurant, having a kid, writing my first book in my 30s, and hitting the wall. And what I would like to do, because I love this decentralizing the nervous system, is like, what is it that you do and how do you work with someone, who's postmenopause even, or perimenopause,
Yeah.
um, to reprogram ourselves?
Yeah. That's such a beautiful question. And I find that in the perimenopause to menopause continuum, I like it, the journey, the adventure, the grand adventure, is that, many of us are coming in with these obligations, with a lot of things on our plates, that this kind of this way of this level, I call it like vigilance, productivity, type A personality, making sure you're checking all the boxes, like wherever you fall into that, there's my therapist loves to call it, when I'm talking about it, she's like, you're always very intentional. You're very intentional in what, and so she knows my language. Because you can package it however you want, lipstick on a pig, it's the same thing, and so there's a couple different tools in the toolbox. I think the first tool in that toolbox, I think one of the deepest tools, is an awareness. I just came from a 7-day Dr. Joe Dispenza advanced meditation retreat to create more awareness in my system. And so I think that first step is an awareness. And I think sometimes we want, Eckhart Tolle tells us to be aware of our thoughts, but I think it really is around aware of our sensations. What's the body awareness around when you get that text message and you are responding to that call to action, whether it's an emergency from a family member, or a mean text message, or someone saying that you're late to something that you forgot about. What does that sensation feel like? Is it a tightness? And it's important to identify, and after identifying, I always like to name it, of like, what is this that I'm feeling? Am I feeling stress? Am I feeling fearful? Am I feeling anxious? And then, there's a lot of different breath work exercises. And one of the ones I love is like the 4-5-8, where you take an inhale, you hold it, and then a really long exhale. So I think that first step is really one in the moment, caught up in the rapture of vigilance. Can we recognize what's happening to our system, our bodies, and can we recalibrate ourselves back to a place of peace, and parasympathetic, right? Having more vagal tone. The other thing I love is sending safety signals. If you already know that you're a vigilant person because of childhood experiences, you have an ACEs score over a 3 and an advanced childhood, advanced score where it's kind of measuring your trauma. You kind of already know you're going into like adult life or perimenopause and menopause life with a system that kind of just reacts very quickly, kind of out of your, a little, almost can feel automatic and out of your control. I am a big proponent of sending safety signals to the body. So having a really beautiful morning routine and an evening routine, like book ending our day, letting the brain know that, hey, you're okay. You're okay. It's going to be okay. And even maybe telling that little part of you that's feeling so vigilant that she's going to be okay. She's okay too. Like somehow she helped us get here. Maybe she could take a back seat for a second. That little part of us that wants to go into emergency mode. And so I'm a big fan of walking in nature, boosting our cellular batteries that way, but just the awe and wonder of nature first thing in the morning is so beautiful. Whether it's affirmations or it's meditation or it's a little bit of breath work, maybe it's nourishing your body with like a yummy detox smoothie, some, electrolytes in your water, just letting your body know that, hey, we're good. We're tending to you. We're loving up on you. And then throughout the day, for me, it's either walking back outside a couple times a day. It's hugging I have a 3-year-old, he's in preschool, like hugging my little 3-year-old. It's that little oxytocin boost that we both really get a benefit from. And then in the evening time, I always say protect your sleep like it's $1 million meeting. So really languish in that routine of, maybe it's what a friend of mine calls it lotions and potions, where she's got the essential oil, she's using the diffuser, she's got her little tincture, she's got her supplements, she's got her little night mask and her book that she's reading. And it's this routine and this ritual that she gets to kind of prepare her body for some deep, restful sleep. And then on top of those things, I am a big fan of optimizers. So whether that's adaptogenic herbs to support something like a Tulsi tea or, holy basil, or maybe you're taking an adaptogen like ashwagandha or schisandra. I'm a big fan of hormone replacement therapy, so helping to support there as well. And then, maybe it's even some important nutrients like magnesium to help calm the nervous system. So there's a lot of tools in the toolbox that you can use. And I'm obviously a very big proponent of all of them.
Yeah, that's super great. And actually, I'm going to have you put the free chapter of the Conscious Cures Guide, because a lot of what you just said is in the Conscious Cure Guide, and this will be something tangible, and I'm sure it's in your books as well, and we'll pop the link to your books down there. But the Conscious Cures Guide is just super simple. Boom, boom. Everything you said, boom. Maybe not the part about the magnesium, but it is really important. And sometimes you can't hear it enough. And also pop in this week's blog tell into the chat, because you'll get a lot of benefit from that. You just said, you're just like, I feel like I could talk to you for about 12 hours right now. But right now, one of the things that really, I know you're a functional practitioner, and you said hormone replacement therapy. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to get your take on that, because I tried it once, a little bit, the cream, like a progesterone cream or something. So like, what kind of hormone replacement would help someone like yourself who's going through perimenopause or who's already been through menopause? Do you recommend hormone replacement therapy?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I want to just kind of define a little bit about peri and menopause. So, as natural menopause is anywhere between the age of 45 and 55, and it really has to do with ovarian kind of the retirement of our ovaries due to our egg supply running out. And what I've learned and what the research is really clear on is that perimenopause is that 4 to 10 years leading in. So some of us can be in perimenopause as early as our mid to late 30s. It really just depends on kind of where we land. And I always ask people to get a sense of when you're going to be in menopause, like that final, 12 months after your last period. Ask your mom. Now, hopefully your mama didn't have a hysterectomy or no oophorectomy before she got there. So many of our mamas did, but maybe she'll have a sense. And usually we kind of land around when our mothers landed. Now, the average age is 51, 52 years old. But just note that when those hormones start to decline, especially as they begin to fluctuate and decline, it really does set off an acceleration of events that unfortunately can lead to some conditions down the road. And so one of the things that we know is that there's a major health span disparity. So although we live longer than men, about 4 to 5 years, maybe 3 to 5 years longer than men, our quality of life isn't as robust. So our health span doesn't match up with our lifespan. And what we're seeing is that hormones can be a big player. Are they the end all be all? No. There's lifestyle. I'm a big fan of metabolic health. Obviously, you could take all the hormones in the world, and if your nervous system is on the fritz, they're not going to do. I mean, they'll help a little bit, but they're not going to get you through it. Like, there's really working on that regulating piece that's going to be so important. But I do believe that they can be profound optimizers. When we think about estradiol specifically, she really has receptor sites in every organ system of the body. So we know that when we lose her, we start to see a decline in muscle strength and muscle mass. We start to see redistribution of fat to the abdominal area. So we go from a pear shape to an apple shape. We start to see cardiovascular changes that are not necessarily in a favorable direction. And we start to see our brain shift and change as well. And so I always say, hey, let's do all the lifestyle, let's pull all the levers. And especially if you're struggling with symptoms, the hot flashes, the night sweats, the brain fog, the mood changes, and you're starting to see labs moving in an unfavorable direction, it's a worthy conversation to have with your practitioner, not only for symptom relief, but also for prevention. Like, I want women, I think about the 4 horsemen that take us out. It's cancer, it's cardiometabolic disease, it's neurodegeneration, and it's diseases of frailty. And one of the things that we know is that estradiol can be really helpful in preventing some of those. So I'm a proponent of women looking into hormone replacement therapy as an optimizer as early as perimenopause, when we begin to see the subtle and sometimes even overt symptoms begin to arise. Like, to me, that's a warning sign of like, ooh, our bodies are on the fritz. Things are shifting and changing. Receptor sites aren't being bound to. Maybe we should fill in the gaps and supplement a little bit as women kind of ride that roller coaster of a ride. And then, moving forward, see how they can benefit. Not only, again, symptom management, but also ultimate health span. That's what I'm most interested in, is how do we promote longevity in women for many years to come? Because perimenopause is really the kickoff of the second half of our life. You're going to live for another 40 years. Why not make them as good as freaking possible? So that's where I land on that.
Yeah, no, I love that. Good as freaking possible, always. Well, I just want to backtrack here for a second. Yeah. It ties into what you just said, which was really right on. I am a little confused, like this brand or this type of hormone. Is this like a natural hormone?
Oh, great question.
Is it or are we talking pharmaceutical hormones? Because I think a lot of our listeners who listen to the show, are very concerned about the pharmaceutical nightmare that's happening, and it's controlling not just people's hormones, but everybody around them is on more drugs than they can count on 2 hands. So, very careful about, like, I might even have to go on a drug now to lower my cholesterol, but just temporarily. So I want to kind of look at this, bioidentical hormones versus the
fake. Basis fake. Let's call it fake.
Fake.
Yeah, let's call it fake. I mean, we think about, let's just take birth control for just a moment. An IUD, a Mirena IUD, or birth control, which is often the standard of care for women in perimenopause. Those are fake estrogens and progestins. They are endocrine disruptors. They increase your chances of clot. They increase your chances of stroke. They increase your chances of cancers. That's what they're going to do. Yeah. Can they? Yeah.
Mirena IUD?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a progestin.
Yeah. Okay.
And the argument for the Mirena is that it's local. It's not local. It's systemic. So just a heads up, that now, if I have a patient that is hemorrhaging in late perimenopause, and it's a myomectomy or a surgery or 3 months of a Mirena IUD, or it is hormonal birth control, well, then the lesser of the evils would be that, right? And so it depends on, again, there are instances where it may be appropriate, but it's a catch-all for almost every woman in perimenopause, right? It's like, oh, you're having symptoms. Oh, you're having brain symptoms. You're having mood symptoms. Maybe your cycle's a little bit heavier. It's hormonal birth control. So I just want to clarify that those are Those are synthetic, those are fake, and those are endocrine disruptors. And that's the purpose of them. They're meant to take your ovaries offline. If you were to run your hormone labs, progesterone and estradiol, when you're on hormonal birth control, they are zero. They are not being made. And that bleed, it's a pill bleed. It's not a real bleed. So just a heads up. Then we go to the world of hormone replacement therapy. So, we think about the history of hormone replacement. You've got Premarin, which is basically a conjugated equine estrogen, and it's a combination of a lot of estrogens from horse urine, right? And that's a lot of what the studies are looking at. That is also not a real estrogen; it's a fake estrogen. And at one point, before the Women's Health Initiative, it was the number one prescribed medication in the country, in the US. So luckily
horse urine.
Well, this was our hormone replacement therapy for women in menopause, to stay feminine forever. I believe that was the whole thing. So what we've learned about, again, CEEs, is that, again, these are fake estrogens, fake synthetic estrogens, and they're not molecular in nature by any means. They're not identical to our body's molecular structure, and they can cause issues in their own right. And then you've got progestins, like MPA, Prempro would be an example of the combination. Again, a fake progesterone, not a real one. So when I'm talking about hormone replacement therapy, I'm talking about bioidentical hormone replacement therapy that are literally identical to the estradiol and the progesterone that your body is used to making. It's become clear. And again, do some women do really well without hormones ever? Sure, yes. But a lot of women do struggle when we lose those hormones. And so I'm a proponent that our menstrual cycle is a fifth vital sign. And the reason why it's a fifth vital sign is that we are making life-giving hormones through the menstrual cycle in a very cyclical way, right? Estradiol in the follicular phase, progesterone and estradiol in the luteal phase. And when we lose those, no matter what the age is, there are consequences and implications. And so for many of us, bringing them in, either substituting them, like supplementing them in the real deal, not fake stuff, and like whether it's compounded, however you want to get it, and then replacing them after postmenopause, can really help support not only improve our mortality rate by 40%, decrease breast cancer by 25%, decrease bone fractures by 30%, just increase our health span. And so every woman, at the very least, should get to have the conversation about what is right for her body. But I'm a big fan of informed consent. So know your options, know what's available to you, and then from there, make an educated decision that's right for you and your body.
Well, I would think everybody would sign up for bioidentical hormones if they were going to live longer, have less bone problems, and all those things you just recited. Why wouldn't it just become part of our routine or our regime? What would be the thing that would make us say no bioidentical hormones?
There's a lot of fear around because remember when we were studying hormones back in the day, with the big study being the Women's Health Initiative, we're using fake stuff that isn't good for us. And so we really based a lot of the media, our opinions based on this dark cloud of fear mongering around that. And we've done a lot of women a big disservice. But yeah, bioidentical is the way to go. And then figuring out what's the right application, what's the right dosage specifically for you. And then maybe even consider if you're having some really crazy symptoms in the perimenopausal transition, that maybe you shouldn't have to wait until you're ground zero. It's, for example, I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And so I'm on a thyroid hormone. I'm on a desiccated thyroid hormone with T4 and T3. And when I got diagnosed, my thyroid was still she was doing something. She wasn't doing the most, she had, and it has a lot to do with my stress situation, but she was working hard, but she needed a little support. Now, we would never wait until I was at ground zero T4, zero T3 to supplement in a little support, right? Same thing with hormones as well. Like we should never wait until ground zero to help support women, especially if their symptoms are dictating it. And so that's kind of where I'm landing. It's interesting, how we define early menopause or premature menopause is early menopause is before the age of 45. And premature menopause is before the age of 40. And there's a number of reasons why this happens. It could be cancer, it could be an oophorectomy, it could be treatment, it could be ovarian insufficiency. Some of it we don't know why, but I will tell you, it is gold standard of care that a woman before the age of like 44, if she goes into menopause for whatever reason it may be, whether it was cancer or it was a major surgery or whatever it may be, that it is required immediate hormone replacement therapy. And so what I struggle with is that if we are willing to put a woman who goes into menopause in her early 40s, for whatever reason it is, we put the hormones on her, bioidentical hormones, then why is it okay that once she turns 50, that is natural, that it's a natural process? And even if she may have the same type of symptoms at the age of 50 that she would have at age 42 because she lost those hormones. And so again, at the end of the day, once we lose that fifth vital sign, we'll start to see changes happening. And again, for each and every one of us, it's going to look different, but I'm always really mindful of the silent chronic conditions, the things that we can't see under, we have to look under the hood. We have to look at the biomarkers. We have to do a carotid score, looking at the plaque, because cardiovascular disease kills more women than it kills men. And so that's always on my radar for how I provide a high standard of care for my patients. I want to address the lifestyle. I want to optimize the gut and liver. And I also want to make sure that she's got hormones to carry her through.
No, I'm loving this conversation so much, and I'm going to ask a personal question, and
Yeah.
anybody else is able to ask a personal question too, because we're halfway through this amazing interview already, and I have so many things I want to understand. But like, okay, because I know our audience, a lot of our audience is either going through menopause right now or finished, done,
Yeah.
zero. And I know there's at least two of us on here right now who never did hormone therapy, but are dragging our asses in our 60s.
Yeah.
Um, is there something you can recommend to us? Like, is it maybe a good idea? I mean, what panel of tests would we go through to
Yeah.
realize my cortisol burnt out a long time ago? So I don't even have any cortisol. It got so high,
Yeah, she
it
eventually the body's like, we can't do this anymore. I hear that.
so
Yeah. Are we asking about hormones in our 60s if we've never done hormone replacement therapy before? Do
yes,
you want me to kind of go into the nuances? Okay, yeah.
yeah,
So, what one of the schools of thought that we're really hoping to shift and change, and I'm really hoping to shift and change in this conversation, is that once you're out of the optimal window of 50 to 59 and you didn't do it, too bad for you. And that is not true. Now, mind you, it is nuanced, and that's why it really becomes about the bio individual woman. It's about you. When I am looking at a consult for, let's say a woman comes to me, is 62 years old, her other doctor is like, it's a no go. I'm sorry, you're out of the window. Like, it's just, I don't want the liability. Um,
mhm.
what I look at is one, I'm looking at cardiovascular markers. So I'd run a panel, obviously the standard triglyceride, HDL, LDL. But then I also want to look at ApoB. I want to look at lipoprotein little a. I want to look at homocysteine, which is an inflammatory marker for cardiovascular health, sed rate, fibrinogen, C-reactive protein. I want your fasting blood glucose. I want your fasting insulin. I want the whole workup, right? And then I will take a look at all of this. I'll look at your history. I'll do a carotid score to kind of see, are we dealing with plaquing in the carotid arteries? Anything to be mindful of, because again, hormones are very preventative. So we want to make sure that we nail that preventative window. Can that be into our 60s? Absolutely, it can. But we just want to make sure that it actually is a good fit versus it doing, obviously there's doing more good than harm. And so that would be the thing that I would look into is, hey, can we investigate if this is a fit for me still, even though it wasn't something I explored because I didn't realize I should be exploring it, or everyone told me not to explore it. Like we're barely coming out of the age of these are scary. They're actually super beneficial. So that would be the thing. The other thing I would be looking at, particularly if statins are on the radar, we're looking at, maybe whether it's high blood pressure or high cholesterol levels. Um, it, one, can hormones be an adjunct to that? But also, then I would be looking at, okay, well, how do we optimize? I don't, I would be looking at blood sugar numbers, fasting insulin numbers, and looking for ways to optimize blood sugar. It's making sure that we have really great insulin sensitivity, because that's the number one predictor for cardiovascular disease. So those would be some of the things that would be on my radar if I was working with somebody.
Wow. And then through all of that, you would be able to determine if someone was a good candidate to be on some kind of maybe mild hormone replacement that's going to help with longevity, the bone.
Bones, brain,
Yeah.
yes, muscle, and your obviously your cardiometabolic health too.
And so there are bioidentical hormones for the senior citizens.
Yes, there can be. There absolutely can be. And then I also tell women, like, a lot of doctors will try to pull you off in your 60s, which is a big no-no, because the second you get off of them, those risks go back up, or they start to present. And so I say ride them until the wheels fall off.
Wow, that's very cool. So you're just got your little go-kart and you're just cruising right along and have a lot of energy because you're doing this for your 3-year-old and getting your oxycontin,
Oxytocin. Yeah.
oxytocin, your oxycontin there, oxytocin up, which also is really good for our hormones, just hugging and loving and caressing and those things do too also ignite our hormones. Am I right? Is
Absolutely. I mean, you think about, especially if, I know I never meet a woman. It's so rare to meet somebody who's got like an optimal diurnal cortisol pattern. It's pretty rare, because we're holding a lot. Women are holding the most, and we've got a lot on our plates. And there's nothing about these last 5 years that have been conducive to happy hormones, particularly stress hormones. And so the only hormone that can really trump cortisol is oxytocin. So that is always going to be in your back pocket, whether it's an animal or it's a bestie. I always tell people, send a voice memo or do a FaceTime or hug a grandchild or hug a child or hug a partner, or even give yourself your own self-love. That's going to be really helpful in helping to manage and mitigate cortisol. Remember, cortisol as a survival hormone, it has to upregulate other hormones as well, including insulin, including thyroid hormone, because you're going to need energy to run. Well, your body thinks that's what's going to go on. And so any way that we can keep cortisol, in kind of in that Goldilocks, calmed place, is a win for our other hormones as well. Now, cortisol and regulating, I mean, can cortisol have an impact on your reproductive hormones? Yes. But if they're gone, it's not going to have an impact on them one way or the other. It's going to have an impact on your system. Yes, cortisol is going to have an impact on your cardiovascular system and your microbiome, and it's going to have an impact on your brain and your blood sugar. It absolutely is. So it gets to be a yes and that's why I say hormones, bioidentical hormones are optimizers. We still get to, it's a yes and in, tending to our other systems as well and having beautiful lifestyle strategies in place, to, keep us alive and keep us living the life that we want. At the end of the day, this is a life game that we're playing. It's not just adaptogenic herbs and hormones, like all it's your life. And it, ultimately it gets to be as high quality as you really want it to be. As long as, and that you're implementing the tools to really help support you. But I know sometimes we can get caught up in the nuance of, all these, like you said, the hormones or the supplements or all the things. But at the end of the day, what matters most is that you're living a life that feels alive and that feels good and that feels joyful. You've got people around you that you love. Like that's what it's all about. And I always want to keep your health span as healthy as possible so that you can do those things for as long as possible.
I love this. This is so great. Where were you 20 years ago when I needed you? Uh, I just love how you're bringing this all, making it more digestible, and you're passionate about it. You can just feel your energy and the whole vibration. It just making uh, my whole vibration feel better and hopeful. I think feeling hopeful in this crazy world that we've always lived in. We just think it's crazier now for some reason, but we're not in the gladiator era anymore, although sometimes it feels like it. We're at a really exciting time in history, and if we can change our mindset around that and turn off all this media and all this contagious fear that everybody is feeding off of, it's addictive.
Yeah.
That's havoc on us. But one thing that you kept bringing up there was the cortisol. What do you do with somebody who doesn't have any cortisol left?
Yeah,
Or
that's a great question.
yeah,
Yes, I mean, if you are really down, no cortisol, a couple of considerations. You can do, I recommend adrenal cortex, where you can kind of get a little bit of cortisol from that. There's a bunch of different companies, the supplement companies that actually make adrenal cortex. So, like real adrenal. So you can get a little bit of that supplemented back. So,
yes, standard processing. Do you have you?
center process, integrative therapeutics. One of my ortho molecular makes a phenomenal adrenal cortex. So, I mean, a lot of women who, again, it's not high cortisol anymore. It is low to no cortisol, and at that point, I'm supplementing in with an actual adrenal cortex. That's
Mm.
one way, because we need it. We absolutely need it. If that doesn't cut it, because sometimes it doesn't, depending on how severe it is. And then there are prescriptions for actual cortisol.
Okay, well, that's good to know. That's good to know. And I think some of your other solutions you mentioned before that, hugging people and getting out and being social and having a good time. And I just have to ask this whole controversy around soy and estrogen and hormone, um, how it raises havoc on your hormones. So where do you stand with the whole soy movement?
I mean, a lot of soy is processed, so I'm always mindful of that, right? We think about, so highly processed anything, I'm a no-go. So you'll see a lot of soy, highly processed corn in products, highly processed soy in products, highly processed oils. No, thank you. But in terms of like organic tempeh or soy as an isoflavone, is it going to mediate? Is it going to get rid of the hot flashes and the night sweats? I cannot guarantee. Every woman's a little bit different. I'll usually bring in the big guns. But I'm a big fan of isoflavones. I think that they're great. I think it's just, bring them on in, see how you do. And if you're feeling pretty good, they're pretty weak binders into the receptor sites for estrogen. So they're not like wreck and shop like xenoestrogens are another thing, like phthalates and BPA. Like these are severe, serious concerns around as a xenoestrogen. They're blocking up the receptor site. They're causing all kinds of problems. They're not allowing for the real deal to be bound to those receptor sites. I got a major issue with xenoestrogens. But in terms of isoflavones, the research doesn't support that they're a major issue unless we're talking about being ultra processed.
Yeah, I really appreciate that very clear, concise, functional medicine doctor approach to foods, right? To this whole soy equation. It makes sense. So there are other dietary or foods to help with improve the hormones other than the whole soy roller coaster. What other things do you recommend?
Sure. And as I mentioned, I've had a lot of women over the years eat a lot of soy and try a lot of soy. I've dear friends of mine have a seed cycling company that they really love. And some women see a lot of great results. And I say, hey, give it a go. And at the very least, when you're cycling things like flaxseed and sunflower seeds and like in your cycle, like even just having those seeds in your system are great for your microbiome. They're phenomenal fiber. So I say, give it a try, see what happens. If they're not alleviating the symptoms or you're not feeling super great, then there's another level up. So that's what I speak into. Other supplements, I mean, I'm a big fan of adaptogenic herbs. I love ashwagandha. I love rhodiola, schisandra. I love holy basil. I mean, I think bring them on in. Chasteberry can be really wonderful, especially in early perimenopause while you're still cycling. Can be super, super helpful. I love berberine for metabolic health and cardiovascular health and blood sugar regulation. So there's just a lot of really great herbs out there. And then I mean, supplementations are non-negotiable too. I look at labs every single day, and vitamin D levels are abysmal at best. So get your vitamin D, ladies. 5,000 IU's with K1 and K2. Magnesium glycinate goes a long way for sleep and calming the body. And a lot of us are just burning through a lot of these critical nutrients because we're burning through life. B vitamins, I love supporting the gut microbiome. So a good probiotic, a good digestive enzyme, to help assimilate those nutrients, I think is super critical. And then I love omegas, and I love things that are going to help support our mitochondria as well. So things like CoQ10 and acetyl L-carnitine. Just kind of figure out what works for you. I try not to bombard women with a million supplements. It's very overwhelming, and a lot of people, when your system is feeling overwhelmed, you stop
Mm.
and freeze, and you don't do the thing. And so ideally, if you can get a lot of this nutrient from real food from your farmer's market, I am a full body yes. If you can get your L-theanine from matcha, woo woo, like I would love that too. And so yeah, we prioritize foods that are going to feed our tummy friends here in my house. And so that's how we talk to my son.
Mm.
Our blueberries, our raspberries, our yummy vegetables, our yummy smoothies. Like again, all of that, those metabolically healthy, gut-friendly foods are going to move the needle at a cellular level.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing you said earlier that I think is really important to elaborate and bring forward, like you said, like if you're in total chronic stress mode, which we're talking about here,
Mhm.
how to prevent that, you're throwing a lot of these supplements like darts on the outside of the dart ball of the dart board. And so, how do you work with your clients or people, or what can you recommend to our
Yeah.
audience for as far as like, all right, it can be very stressful to realize you just spent, $200 a month on supplements, and you're stressed out, right? So, and you're not digesting, and the prebiotic or the probiotics upsetting your stomach and so forth. So, let's talk about, we only have like 10 minutes left. So I would love to, like, the theme of this whole show was chronic stress, and
Yeah,
I just,
let's get back.
let's
Yeah.
get back. But I want to say is, it's just like how much I just appreciate your brilliance and your knowledge around this topic. And I want to encourage everybody to, the link is in the chat, on the live stream and the replay for all those listening to the replay. Go to Dr. Mariza's website and check it out, and check out some of her podcasts, because she's got some incredible guests on there. And also I will put the link to my show, A Dose of Positivity, where you can listen to the different perspectives of many regenerative health specialists. Not so much, we haven't had somebody as articulate and as knowledgeable as you on the hormones, and I'm just so grateful for everything you're bringing. I mean, people are going to have to listen to this replay a few times or go directly to her website so that you can continue garnishing more of this wisdom, and maybe even becoming a patient, because do you do virtual clients?
Not too right now. I'm working on a new book, so that's taking up a lot of my bandwidth.
Yeah,
So not at the moment, but I will be bringing people back on 20 in 25 once the book manuscript is in.
yeah. Oh, you mean your show you're taking a break from?
No, no, no. My patient load. So I'm finishing up probably about 20 patients right now, and then once I'm working on the book, and then once the book is done, or at least the manuscript is in, I can take people back on. You know, so
Yeah.
I think boundaries is such a big part of the conversation. you know, um, for us as women, especially in perimenopause and menopause, I think one of the benefits that women say that they get out on the other side of it is just like, oh, I'm super clear on my boundaries. I've been sharing with people that I'm in my Queen of Hearts era, and it is off with your head. Like everybody is up for review. There are no sacred cows right now in perimenopause. But let's talk a little bit about chronic stress. Can you adaptogen your way out of chronic stress? Probably not. Can it help? Sure. Just a little bit of background for me. I was abused as a child my entire childhood. So I have a very vigilant nervous system. I have complex PTSD. My brain just didn't develop normally. I have a disassociated attached system. I'm just sharing this because, like, you know, why is my cortisol deregulated? Why is it that I act the way that I do? And it's deep seated patterning from cellular trauma. And so I think we got to take a step back and say, where is this originating from? Where is this coming from for me? Why is it that every time this situation comes up, I react in this way? What is that? There's not an adaptogen that's going to fix my deep-seated cellular trauma. And so one of the couple of practices that I recommend, and again, losing our cortisol is often a result of us responding to the situations that are in. So in a lot of ways, it's a side effect in a way, a symptom of a deeper underlying root cause. So I tell women it's really important to have somatic practices in place, whether that's massage or maybe it's a weighted blanket or a weighted scarf that has your body feeling safe. Potentially working with a trauma-informed practitioner, someone who can kind of get into it. I have a couple different trauma-informed doctors that I work with, because again, I've tried to regulate my cortisol and I've tried to use all the adaptogens. I did all the things for years, and yet I'm finding myself responding in the same way that I've been responding since I was 15 years old. Like, what's up with that? Why is that the way I show up? And so I do a lot of parts work with an internal family systems doctor. Where my protective part, she loves productivity. That's how she was safe when she was a little girl. And so I think it's about getting a little bit deeper, and attuning to our little nervous systems, our little Marisas, our little Donnas, our little Stacys, and kind of asking what's going on there. And so I think somatic work is important. I think potentially having a really great trauma-informed practitioner can be really helpful in these moments, especially if you're not feeling like you're clearing it and you find yourself doing the same things over and over again for decades. And then also again, loving up on the body, loving up on the biology. So if I were to go even deeper, because this has been my own life's work for a long time, it's usually that I'm calling in more support from experts where it's what they do every day.
I love that. And one thing I want to add to that was really great. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. And I do believe that there's a great video out there. If you haven't seen it yet, it's 5 minutes, maybe a little longer. But Bob Newhart, who just passed away, bless his heart, 94 years old. It's called Stop It. And you guys try and find it and put it in the chat. Bob Newhart, Stop It. You got to watch it, and when you watch it prepared to laugh at yourself, laugh at the world, lighten up. That's all I have to say. I mean, I've probably watched it 50 times if I've watched it once. When I used to work with clients myself, I would say to them, look, if I can't help you in 3 months, I can't help you at all. You got to help yourself. And that always included this video in there. I mean, sometimes it's just as easy as stop it, like quit smoking. It's harder for some people and other people can just do it in a day, so we all have our different things, or we all have our different traumas, and there is no judgment. But there are tools out there like this video that Bob Newhart graces us with that can really just turn the whole trajectory over. Like, I've had literally people watch the video and just say, I don't need you anymore. Thank you so much. And I'm like thrilled. So, like, if we want to live a really good, long, strong, healthy, vibrant life, contribute to society, raise our children from these new patternings, because like we say, on the other side of fear is freedom. And the other side of this bad memories or anger or trauma is even a higher, greater standard of freedom. And so it sometimes it's just choices, and it's like I loved how you said no amount of adaptogens is going to get you out of that. So you gave so many great suggestions there, like working with a trauma therapist, working with these different modalities, so that when you do take these supplements or these hormone replacements, I'm just doing a little like what I
I
taking
love
in
it. Mhm.
feels so good, is like, address the elephant in the room, and don't be afraid of it, because an elephant wouldn't even kill a mouse. That's what we saw on Dumbo, right? So we want to address that elephant in that is that chronic stress, that
Mhm.
is fear, that is all of that like I loved how we started this conversation and you sharing your family history with everybody in the family, and you just deal with it. We're born this way, we're made this way, you are effed, this is it. you,
That
you
was
know
the conversation.
yeah,
I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I accept that.
I know, look at you now. You didn't accept it, right? See what you
Yeah,
did.
no, didn't accept it. And just in the other thing too, I think one of the things that have been so delightful for me is being in the awe and wonder of joy of my 3-year-old. Like just the most yummy, the most beautiful experiences. He's been my greatest lesson, and to get to be in that, like it's like you said, kind of that. I have a feeling I kind of know what the stop it video is, but yeah, we get to reprogram the way that we think. We get to be in that freedom, and he's such a beautiful reminder. There are days where we're at a little music festival in San Diego, and he is just dancing with wild abandon, and he gets to just be in that energy. And I was like, gosh, we all were that. And so, he and I have games where he can um kind of not hit, but gently push on our back or our booty and say dance mode anywhere we're at. And that means we dance.
uh,
And then he can go freeze. And so we do it everywhere, grocery store, bank, down the street. I don't care.
yeah.
Dance mode, it is dance mode. So, that's the awe and wonder. And I love that I have this team and these people who help me, when I get into my stuff, because sometimes that stuff will creep back in. But then having my beautiful boy is just such a beautiful reminder of what it gets to be,
Yeah.
and how good it can be. And that's to me, that's what it's all about.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I just want to, we started a little late, so I'm just going to have you come back in and, answer just like, I think one of the, we didn't notice how we didn't get to any of the questions, but we answered them all. But one thing you said in here that was really great, it says, what has been the most profound, let's see, what are the two most important questions to ask for setting a health intention? But before you close us out with those two intentions, honey, what I want to do is first thank everybody so much for being here on A Dose of Positivity, and remind you, all the new people and anybody who's listening to the replay, kindly pop your email in, so you don't miss an episode. Pop it in the chat or in the feed. And what I do is I send out a daily dose of positivity with a beautiful nature photography. I'm a professional nature photographer, and a quote, an uplifting, complete cortisol regulating quote. And I would love to stay in touch with you and turn you on to the other people. And please, give out some love to our guest here today, and check out the replays of the other 100 plus episodes on our YouTube channel, which you can pop that in there as well. And I also wanted to let everybody know that, so much of what we talked about today is just really helped me. I hope it's benefited you. So please reach out and check out Dr. I hope I've been saying your name right, the whole Mariza, right?
Marisa like Teresa.
Mariza like Teresa. I love it. You're in San Diego. Where are you originally from?
Ooh, I'm originally from Santa Barbara. I'm a California girl.
Yeah.
And
And
now we're in a little funky beach town called Lucadia. That's a part of Encinitas, California. So I wanted my baby to be a beach baby. So we're about a block from the beach.
you are so stunning though. What's your heritage?
Oh, I'm half Mexican.
Oh, Tel said so. I thought maybe you had some Indian in you, because our last guest did. Put Dr. Needha's link in the chat too. You will love to meet this woman. she was our last guest. She's an Ayurvedic practitioner, and that's just one thing I was going to touch upon. Ever since I got into Ayurvedic and doing a lot of the herbs and the spices and the kind of cookings and cooking that with the food, because I'm a professional chef, is that has really helped working with your dosha, and so the whole Ayurvedic way of lifestyle has kept me. I haven't been on any hormones, and I've been doing it pretty much for quite some time, but really in the last 2 years, pretty prolifically. So, but I just want to thank everybody and for coming. But what I was trying to get at is I'm going to be leaving in a couple of weeks to go to Bali for a month and I'll be doing a lot of Ayurvedic treatments there. And I'll be on a healing spiritual quest to try and find some cortisol. Bring some cortisol. And as most of you know, I was in India last January. So I'm just always constantly working on it, continuing my journey of healing and finding incredible guests like you, um, Dr. Mariza, for coming on the show today. I want to thank you so much, and please take us home with the two things
Yeah.
that can help us with our health. Go ahead. Thank
Absolutely. So, my first question I'd love to ask anyone that I'm working with for the first time is, what would you love more of in your health? What would you love more of? What would you love to feel? How would you love to feel? And so often it's more energy, more peace, more aliveness. And then the other question I'd love to ask is, what about your healthy body brings you joy? So, coming from a place of just having more optimal health, what would be joyful about that? And then just kind of taking some time and writing out those questions for you and getting clarity. I'm a big fan of creating your future epic healthy self, that being your North Star, because you're so clear on who you're going to become. And then you get to take those steps to become her. But those are two questions I absolutely love to ask, so that we can get clarity. No one ever asks us what brings us joy. No one ever asks us, what would if, when we're in this beautiful, healthy body, or even in this current body, what's joyful about being in this body? And that really shifts the conversation to how, oh, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that, and da 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 da. Body shaming or self-negative talk to a place of, of gratitude and abundance in our bodies. At that Dr. Joe Dispenza event, there's a lot of people that were in wheelchairs and had cancer and terminal conditions. And I remember walking, there were women and people who got out of their wheelchairs at the event. But I remember thinking to myself, we were doing our walking meditations. I had such deep gratitude for the fact that I could walk, that I could just be outside and do that. And that was just, really profound, like living in that state of gratitude for what our bodies are doing for us every single day. And then what about that brings us a lot of joy?
you. So beautiful. Everybody ask yourself, what brings you joy and what are you grateful for? That is so beautiful. A great way to close this out. And for anybody who has stayed on the show, we're going to go off the live in just a second right now, and then just stay on, and you, if you want to ask any more questions or something, we'll address them then. So I want to again thank everybody for being here, being everybody out there in the social media land. Big love and aloha.